Oh my, in characteristic fashion, I have forgot to hit the start recording button. At least I noted it this time rather than at the end of the match. So the majority of this first match is not going to get recorded. That's very sad. All right. So redundantly for the people currently listening, but for the first time for people who will be watching this on YouTube, this is the F4 division, or F14 division, I believe. It's definitely F division of the Dominion League. We have Ilikus versus Assemble Me playing their first game of a 6-game match. Assemble Me, I believe, is currently 6-6 in a win-loss record in their division, so batting 50. Ilikus also batting 50 by virtue of having not played any games and being 0-0. So they're, I guess, currently tied in relative standings. One-sixth majority. Shoot, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Oh yes. The match is the singular 6-game set that they're playing, and then the individual game is game 1. I don't remember what I said, but I'm guessing that I must have butchered those terms, and that's what you're suggesting. Water under the bridge. Oh, that's a lot of cards in Ilikus's hand. Can they triple here? 1, 2. Surely they can. Yeah, they got triple here. Remodel province into province, displace gold in the province, play animal fair, play forager, then you buy the 3rd province. That's a win. Now, do they see it? I guess that's the question. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, so it looks like they're doing the right thing. We're just thinking about it, and I think they'll probably come to the correct conclusion eventually. All right, step 1. Looks like they found it. Oh no! Do they still have enough money here? Now it's not clear that they found it. I don't think this is guaranteed. I think they can still get it if they groom for silver and then put the silver in hand with slay. Oh no! Don't take it as state. No. Oh, this still works anyway as well. Okay, so they found another route. Okay. I was getting worked up there because I think they passed up the most obvious win, but they found a different one. All's well that ends well. Alright, so it's now 1-0 in Ilikus' favor, and they won as player 2. Alrighty, let's take a look at this kingdom. So, draw. We've got Black Cat again, can draw you a card. Library can draw you up to 7 cards. Wharf can draw you 2 cards when you play it, and 2 cards the next turn. Actions. Fortress is a village, Plaza is also a village. Trashing. Chapel. Chapel trashes a whole lot of cards. It's also, I think, the only way to trash here. What about buys and gains? Wharf gives you plus buy the turn you play it and the turn after. And Seaway allows you to gain a 4-cost card, and then for the rest of the game, you'll have a little plus buy token on that map, so when you play any card from that pile, you'll get plus buy. So if you basically if you spent 5 for Plaza once, then for the rest of the game, all of your plazas now have plus buy on them. So you could also get plus buy that way. Camel Train can also gain you stuff. The way that works is Camel Train exiles a card, so you could exile Wharf, and then it doesn't directly ever gain you any card, but if you've exiled Wharves and then you later buy a Wharf, you can take the Wharves you already exiled off of that map. And Smugglers can gain you a copy of whatever your opponent gains. So definitely big engine to be built here. Wharf is a strong draw card. The turn you play it, it's only alright, but getting to draw 2 extra cards at the very start of your next turn is just great draw and great reliability. We got decent villages, we got good trashing. Chapel's an amazing trasher, and so you're definitely looking to build here. So I think opening definitely involves Chapel. I'm not sure what you open it alongside. Let's see what they chose. 5-2, Wharf Chapel sounds alright. Well, they both had the 5-2. Oh, did you find that like really old list of like optimal openings? I feel like I've seen that somewhere. That was long before my time. Yeah, other options here. I mean, you could consider seawaying something. So you could like Seaway Plaza, for example. The thing that might incline me towards seawaying early is, I mean, if Wharf and Chapel collide, which I think it did for at least one of them, you're a little bit sad because you can't play them both. And plus buy is not bad here because you can pick up supplies for 2. Supplies it's like a copper, but it's a copper that gives you a horse. Now the main drawback of copper is it's a stop card. It takes up a spot in your deck. You know, so copper's like +1 coin, but -1 draw. Supplies is like a copper that gives you +1 draw for the next turn, and so it sort of evens out that harm. And so supplies is kind of like a peddler in that regard. Or I guess more pertinent to this kingdom. Supplies is very much like a fisherman, right? Fisherman it's +1 action, so it's action neutral because you spin an action to play it. It's +1 coin and it's +1 card. So the net effect of adding Fisherman to your deck, after you subtract out the fact that it's action neutral and the fact that it draws you a card and costs a card to draw, is it's adding 1 coin to your deck at no drawback. Likewise, supplies, it doesn't say +1 action, but it's a treasure, so you don't have to spin an action in the first place. It doesn't say +1 card, but it gives you a horse, which itself nets you +1 card, and it gives you 1 coin. So the sort of net effect of either supplies or Fisherman is to add 1 more coin to your deck with no drawback. So I think supplies is often a better card than silver, because I'd rather have 1 coin at no drawback than 2 coins at the drawback of having a stop card. Commerce I haven't talked about, but commerce could be very good here. You'll probably have a lot of cards, a lot of draw with Wharf, and have a very thin deck pretty soon with Chapel. And so I would definitely be looking for an opportunity to like gain 2 or 3 unique cards and then buy commerce to shove some golds in my deck real fast. Now let's get caught up with what they're doing. So, Assemble Me is a nice turn 3 trash with Chapel, where they trash 3 coppers in an estate. Ilikus, unfortunately, only gets to trash 3 well, I was going to say Ilikus only gets to trash 3 coppers because they're Chapel and Wharf collide, but they just play the Wharf instead. I don't like that as much. I guess none of those options are lovely. I just always, I like trashing the Chapel. It's a strong thing to do. I don't like passing up trashing ever. I mean, they do get a decent trash off turn 5, but they're still going to be a little bit behind now. Assemble Me takes Smugglers. That seems alright. I'm not sure if Smugglers is better than Camel Train here. You know, Camel Train has the disadvantage of you have to gain a new version of the card before you actually take it off your exile mat, but it also gives you more flexibility in what you're gaining. Smugglers doesn't seem bad, though. Definitely going to want a lot of Wharfs. I think Wharf's the best draw card here. You get 2 stacks of villages, both of which are pretty similar. Plaza's the better village here. Fortress is really strong when you have trash for benefit cards around, because Fortress is like a card that when you trash it, you get it back. So with cards like Remodel or not Displace, like Remodel from the Last Kingdom, you could trash a Fortress, gain like a 6-cost card, and then still have the Fortress. But we don't have any trash for benefit cards here. There's no value in trashing your Fortress with Chapel. So Fortress is basically village. Plaza's village at least gives you the opportunity to discard a treasure for 1 coffer. So if you discard a copper for a coffer, it's kind of a little bit better, because a coffer is still like 1 coin, but it's a coin you can bank for next turn if you want to. So it makes sense that they're taking Plazas, not Fortresses, because Plaza is just strictly better here. But I really want Wharf for draw. I think you want more than 1 Wharf. You want a lot of Wharfs. Ilikus' deck is just still so thick, and I think that comes from that choice not to play Chapel turn 4. I like Assemble Me's position better here. So another benefit of that little Plaza effect is if you have overdraw, which at the moment they currently do, they're well trashed and have Wharf. What you can do is draw a copper, discard the copper for 1 coffer, then draw the copper back with another draw card, and then you're getting to have your cake and eat it too, because you get the coffer and you get the copper back to play at the same turn. So it's nice that they have those pauses around because they're converting that little bit of extra draw they have into coins. Alrighty, I had to respond to a message real fast, but now let's look at this kingdom again. What did Assemble Me take there? They bought a plaza. Is that the right turn? They bought a fisherman and a smuggler, so that's interesting. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Their deck's thin. Fisherman and smugglers are both payload. It makes sense to add payload there. Now, ilikus still has this problem of having lots of junk. They're not drawing their deck. Whereas Assemble Me is overdrawing their deck. And they're, again, not playing their chapel. You really, really want a thin deck, for sure. I don't like how whenever they have chapel on another card, chapel takes the back burner. Trashing is just so valuable. I mean, granted, Assemble Me also seemed ahead in the last game, and then ilikus turned it around, so still anyone's game, I guess. But relative to the amount I was saying I prefer Assemble Me's position last game, I think Assemble Me seems more ahead at the moment this game. I like taking more wharves. I would like to have as many wharves as my opponent let me have. Alright, so what do we got here? Assemble Me puts plus buy on plaza. I guess that makes sense. They just added a bunch of terminals in the form of wharves, so they need more villages, and I mean, I guess if you're buying a $4 village anyway, might as well put plus buy on it. I don't think they were desperately in need of plus buy or anything, because they have a ton of wharves, and wharf is lots of plus buy. But if they judge that they needed the village anyway, then throwing plus buy on it doesn't really hurt. It also gives you a lot of pile pressure. You know, in decks with like lots of surplus plus buy, stuff like buying out all the estates or buying out all the curses, suddenly becomes a very viable threat for any of the game. We also have 3 piles that are already relatively low, especially with smugglers around. Could see this ending relatively soon. I think next thing I would start thinking about for Assemble Me is probably a good commerce turn. Like if they can gain like 3 or 4 cards and then commerce, that'd be wonderful. Note that supplies is actually quite good for that, because supplies gains you a horse. Commerce cares about the number of cards you gain per turn, and so supplies is gaining you 1 more card in the form of horse, which will get you 1 more gold if you do choose to buy commerce. So that's a nice little interaction. Unfortunately, ilikus is the one with the supplies at the moment. So if I were looking to set up for commerce, I'd consider getting at least 1 supplies. 1 supply? Multiple supplies. I don't know how to pluralize the card. It's already got plural in its name. Alright, let's see what Assemble Me can do now with all those wharves. You should probably discard coppers here, I would think. I think they have more than enough draw to draw back to it. Now what are their potential smuggle targets? They could smuggle 2 plazas. They could smuggle a black cat. I think that's it. I would consider playing the smugglers now. Oh, that was the wrong order. This is still fine, I think, if... Now, you wanted to play the fisherman last. Because remember, you can do the little overdraw thing with plaza where you discard copper, draw the copper back, discard copper, draw the copper back, etc. And so you want the last card you play to be the one that doesn't involve discarding copper. You play the plaza first, discard the copper, then redraw it with fisherman. This order gets you, I think, 1 less total coffer out of the little interaction. but they can smuggle plaza, discard copper, etc. Oh, this is a black cat top deck. That's not bad. All right, so I think now, do you trash any more coppers of trample? Now they have a ton of draw coming with those dwarves. I don't think you really need to trash. Maybe you trash like a copper, but I definitely am buying commerce here. Maybe even buy like supplies and commerce, because if you buy supplies before buying commerce, that gets you a extra gold. Maybe even copper supplies commerce. Do they have that much draw? Probably. I mean, they were overdrawing a ton last turn, so they could probably even afford to buy like supplies, copper, commerce. Also, it'd not be unreasonable to just like trash some coppers. Yeah, they could still actually trash all three of these coppers and spend some coffers to get supplies, copper, commerce if they wanted. Okay, so they just went with Fisherman Commerce. That's still not bad. Same general idea. Piles are getting awfully low. I think, is a symbol me in a position to threaten to pile out estates next turn? I think quite likely, right? They would need like 9 buys for that. They've got 3 wharves and a bunch of plazas. I think they have 5 plazas, if I'm not wrong. That's 5 buys plus 3 buys plus the normal buy. That'd be 9 buys. Yeah, so I think assemble me with a good draw is threatening to pile out plaza and estates. So if you're ilikus, how do you prevent that? It's kind of hard. Because even just taking province here wouldn't put you in the lead if they buy 8 points worth of estates. Do they have to try to double province here? Can they double province? That's hard. They have 8, 10, 15 potentially. I mean, if you spend all your money doing like province duchy and not building, then you'll have the short-term points lead and you'll just lose in a turn or two. Now they're finally trashing their coppers. Well, I think too little too late. Yeah, I think this is lost. I don't think ilikus has a play right now that can prevent the estate pile out. Actually, this probably makes it even easier. Now that they've lowered supplies, or Black Cat, someone me can smuggle 2 supplies, for example. And then they just have to buy plaza, buy 5 supplies in an estate, and they'll win. Or actually, they'd have to buy 2 estates, I guess, because they'll take a curse from Black Cat. But that still saves them 2 coins and 1 buy. So they should discard copper here with plaza, smuggle supply. Oh, smuggle gold works, I guess, as well. I think smuggling supplies is better. You've got the buys. You just want to lower the piles. All right, that's a win. Plaza 8 estates or Plaza 7. Plaza 7 supplies estate doesn't work now because they don't have enough buys for 2 estates. But they did find they found the Plaza 8 estate route. Had they smuggled the supplies, they could have also done Plaza supplies estates. All right, tied up 1-1. Surprisingly, player 2 has won both of these. All right, sounds like we will be back in a minute. Alrighty, game 3 starting. What have we here? Alright, so draw, Desture, it's like a laboratory with a funky cost. I think that's it for draw. You can get horses off of hostelry, but you can't really build draw off of that. Action, we have hostelry. Trashing, counterfeit can trash coppers. Bounty hunter can set stuff aside in your exile mat, which is a lot like trashing it. Plus buy, we got counterfeit. That being said, we have a very strong attack in the form of Mountebank. This is actually a card I have on my ban list, so I don't play with it. It's a terminal silver, but it gives your opponent a copper and a curse, which is just a huge amount of junk. And so we do have some amount of draw in action, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Mountebank attack is strong enough to just quash the engine and end up turning this game into like a bad slog where everyone's just got a deck full of coppers and curses. Because you got some okay trash, but not strong enough trashing or strong enough draw to really get around that. So I'm thinking priority 1 is probably play Mountebank a bunch. Another thing we're thinking about is Fountain is around. Fountain's worth 15 points if you have at least 10 coppers. We'd probably get a bunch of coppers from your opponent's Mountebank anyway. Now, between the two trashers, Counterfeit, which technically trashes your coppers, and Bounty Hunter, which kind of sort of trashes your coppers, but not really, because it puts them aside in the exile map. Normally, I'd rather be trashing my coppers with the Counterfeit, because it gives me a benefit off of them. I get 2 coins from trashing with Counterfeit, whereas I get 3 coins the first time I trash a copper with Bounty Hunter, and then none from there on out. That being said, I wouldn't mind Bounty Hunting a lot more of my coppers in this game, because if they're on the exile mat, they still technically count as mine. And so if I can get like 10 coppers aside of my exile mat, those are going to be worth 15 points for me at the end of the game. So that's something worth thinking about. Castles will also be a little bit nicer than usual here because each castle has its own unique name. And so you could Bounty Hunter each castle one at a time, and every time you Bounty Hunter a castle, you'd still be getting 3 coins from it. Because even if you have other copies of castles in your exile mat, they aren't technically the same card. Let's see what they did. So Assemble Me opens Bounty Hunter Silver. I like that a lot. Ilikus opens Bounty Hunter Humble Castle. I think that's a little early for Humble Castle. I mean, I think Mountebank is probably going to make this game, very much a slow slog anyway. But I don't think I'd take the points turn 2. I'd like Bounty Hunter Silver because it gives me a higher chance of hitting 5, let alone maybe hitting 5 twice. Let's see. So Assemble Me gets 7 coins. I like that they gamble a bit. So if they're going to buy Mountebank anyway, which as I say, I realize they bought Counterfeit, which is not bad, but I think inferior. You might as well gamble a little bit because all of your cards are at the top of your shuffle, right? A turn 3, you found your Bounty Hunter, your Silver, your Coppers. You know what's coming up as estates. And so it makes sense to want to gamble, not because you need to play any of the cards coming up, but just because gamble gets rid of some of those cards from the top of your deck, and you know that the rest of your shuffle, turn 4, is just full of like estates and a few coppers. And so you just want to get a little bit farther through it so that you trigger that shuffle earlier, get back to your good cards a little sooner. So I like gambling there. Ilikus buys a Bard. I don't know about that. Bard doesn't seem a very important card to me here. I think you could take a second Bounty Hunter just to get trash faster. Ilikus takes a Mountebank though, turn 4, which I like. So Assemble Me chose not to play their Bounty Hunter. That's strange to me. Why did they do that? I'm not sure why they chose not to play their Bounty Hunter. I'd really like to get trashed really fast. I know my opponent's got a Mountebank and it's going to start cursing me. How did they know that was Counterfeit already? Was it the last card in their deck, maybe? So I think the confusion here is this. There's technically 2 different steps to your buy phase, right? Step 1 of your buy phase is you put your treasures and stuff into play. Step 2 is you buy things. And so they've already bought Gamble. And I think they were thinking that after buying Gamble, they could then go back and put the rest of their coppers into play. And that is not the case. Once you buy anything, event included, you can't play those coppers anymore. Now I believe I mean, you could play one of the coppers via the counterfeit effect, but you can't play both of them. Now the reason why the undo I think is a little bit questionable is because, like, obviously it would be kind of, you know, sketchy if you just like waited to see what you gambled and be like, oh, I hit a counterfeit, now let me undo back and leave one copper in my hand so that my counterfeit has a target for it, that sort of thing, because you're getting new information there. I wasn't actually looking closely enough. Someone of me said they knew that the counterfeit was coming up. Obviously, if you know the counterfeit's there anyway, that seems like more clear evidence that, okay, maybe it was just like a mistake in understanding how the buy phase works and not like using the new information to your advantage. But in general, you couldn't just like gamble first, see, oh, I gambled the wrong card, and then undo and do something different. Sad hand for counterfeit. They don't get to trash any coppers. Now, how is it that Similme got the first curse in, despite ilikus getting the mountebank first? Did their mountebank miss the shuffle? Not sure. It might also just be that Similme has gotten thinner via the bounty hunter and counterfeit and such. Does Similme know what the last two cards are? I'm pretty sure they know those last two cards are not estates, so I think you can safely gamble here. Oh, they just decided to get a hostelry. Do they have multiple? They only have the one terminal action, or do they have a falconer? So I guess they technically have two terminal action cards. I think I would have just gambled through those last two coppers to get a clean shuffle and get the coppers off the top of my deck. Could buy Destrier here, could just gamble. They buy Destrier, that's fine. Oh, they've triggered their opponent's Falconer. The way Falconer works is if someone, either you or your opponent, gains a card with two types or more, so like action, attack, etc., then you can play your Falconer automatically from hand. So because their opponent gained a Falconer, which has an action and a reaction type, they get to play their Falconer automatically. The main benefit to that, I think, in this case, and in most cases, is just, it saves you an action, right? If you get to play your Falconer via that reaction, you don't then have to spend an action on it later, which could potentially be relevant. What are you taking for 7 here? I think put the copper in play and gamble. You know you got your mountebank coming up, right? And you don't want that to miss the shuffle? Or have they seen the mountebank already? Oh, no, they've seen the mountebank already, the shuffle. I still think it might be worth gambling just to get through those last 4 cards. It's also viable to just, you know, buy Destrier here. Here, deliberating for a long time over what to do. I would think the options are just buy Destrier or gamble. Now with 7 coins, you could gamble and still very likely buy Destrier. Like if you have 7 coins and you hit a copper and play the copper, you spent 2 and gamble, you got 1 back from the copper, you're still at 6. And so that's also a possibility. I like that Similme has a second bounty hunter. You know, trying to stay thin, you know, while potentially not really possible here, is still, you know, it's still worth it. You know, you might never have a fully thin deck that draws everything, but if you've got a few key cards like, you know, mountebank, Destrier, Falconer, etc., you want to find those more frequently. And so I'd be happy to take, you know, more of the trashing cards, bounty hunter and counterfeit, to try to keep my deck thinner. And like I said, I'd also love to be bounty hunting some extra coppers off to the side so I can technically keep the coppers for fountain points while also getting them out of my deck. Huh. So as something I would have strongly considered buying a 2-type card there, because I could have triggered my own Falconer. Like if, for example, they bought a Mountebank, which is an action and an attack, they could have then played the Hostelry. Sorry, they could have played the Falconer and still gained a Hostelry off of that. So that'd be an example of how they could have gotten, both the Hostelry and another card. As it is, they left their Falconer entirely unplayed. Ilikus is choosing what to gain here. Could gain, I think maybe just a silver. Gain silver, trash copper with counterfeit, you've hit 5, and then you can buy something nice, like a Destrier maybe, or a second Mountebank. Second counterfeit even is fine. The Destrier only costs 5 and not 6 here because you've gained a silver, which reduces its cost by 1. Another nice interaction that they couldn't have done that turn because they didn't have any particularly valuable cards, but like a symbol me could consider this turn would be Falconer for Changeling, and then if you have other good cards in hand like Destrier, you can immediately turn that Changeling back into a Destrier, and that'd be a nice way to use your Falconer to gain higher cost cards than you normally could. Revealing Horse is unfortunate for Ilikus. Obviously, you discard the horse. There's no value in drawing at the end of your draw or at the end of your buy phase, and that would just waste your horse. Second Mountebank or second counterfeit seem both good here. They get another Bounty Hunter. That's not bad, but I think I'd rather the Mountebank. Get in 2 attacks compared to 1 trash. Gaining Hostelry. This could potentially work. No. It's just a little shy, I think. They had like 1 more treasure in their hand. They could have discarded enough coppers to reduce Destrier's cost enough to be able to afford to buy it. But they couldn't quite do that. Oh, they're able to draw a counterfeit anyway. I would have considered counterfeiting that silver. I would happily take the 5 coins now and buy 2 Destriers compared to taking a Destrier and keeping a silver. Destrier seems like a much stronger card than silver. This will be a nice turn. For 3, I'd consider taking a guide. Salumi has 1 guide to Ilikus' 0, but they already have a guide down, so maybe it's not super important for them. But definitely I like the idea of having at least a guide or 2 around, because you got a deck with a lot of junk in it. And so there's a good chance you'll have some turns where your hand's just like, utter crap and you want to toss it and draw a new one. So here, I don't particularly want a lot of silvers in the deck, I don't think. I would have considered buying guide, turning the Changeling into Mountebank. They bought nothing and turned the Changeling into Hostelry. I assume they're doing that for the very short-term benefit of horses, which is all right if you can do it in large numbers. But you don't particularly need a lot of Hostelries. I think I would have preferred having more Mountebanks and so forth. If you have a deck with more total good cards, there's also going to be more value in drawing around to them. They're taking a bunch of Changelings. I don't think there's reason to play that second Bounty Hunter. You just leave it and buy 2 Destriers, and then you can Changeling for a 3rd Destrier, or a Falconer or Mountebank. Both seem fine as well. Wonder what they're thinking about. Remember, Destrier's cost reduces by 1 for each card you gain. So even if it costs 3 now, you can buy 2 of them for 5, because the first one you buy will reduce the cost of the second one down to 2. And they have 5 and 2 buys in hand. So they already have enough for 2 Destriers and don't really need to trash the silver. Alright, yeah, I like what they ended up doing. It does look like Assemble Me's got a large majority of the Destriers. Piles are getting a little bit low. Destrier will definitely run out. Curses will run out. Hostelry is low enough that it could run out. Might be time to start counting your coppers and see if you can get to Fountain quickly. I wonder what the order is on the Falconer Crumbling Castle interaction. I was thinking potentially you can gain the Crumbling Castle, you've gained 2 cards, you react with Falconer and gain a Destrier. They went with Hostelry anyway. I think I would have rather take the last Destrier. Because Crumbling Castle is a 2-type card, you get to react with your Falconer, but you also gain a silver from gaining it. So Destrier's cost is now 4, which puts it in the range that Falconer can gain. I think maybe they just overlooked that. I don't see why they would want a Hostelry more than a Destrier. Alright, pilouts will become a threat very, very soon. Like this turn, Assemble Me could take 2 Hostelries and a Destrier if for some reason they wanted to. I don't think that's the right play, but you know, they draw their Mountebank. They actually maybe there's a pilot here that wins, so they can give out 1 curse. Now 3 curses is too much for them to deplete. They can't give out all that and take a points lead. They're drawing a large portion of their deck, though. I feel like this game should have been sloggier. I mean, a second Mountebank, even maybe a 3rd, sounds very good to me. I'd love to be giving my opponent a bunch of junk. They seem to be prioritizing draw and stuff a lot, which is, I mean, like, nice for your deck, but also nice for your opponent's deck. 2 junk cards is just really painful. And there aren't cards here that are great at trashing curses. You know, Counterfeit can only trash coppers. Bounty Hunter can get rid of your curses, but for no benefit. And the curses stay on your exile mat, so they're still counting as negative points. Assemble Me has at least 7 coppers right now, so they're pretty close to fountain points. They could consider buying Small Castle and Haunted Castle. The castle underneath the Small Castle costs 6, and it has a nice attack that forces your opponent to top deck 2 cards. And so that could often be worth getting. Let's see, if they don't have enough buys to do Small Castle, Haunted Castle, and Destrier. This still looks good. They could potentially gain the Destrier off of Changeling, or gain another Mountebank off of Changeling. Maybe we gain another Counterfeit just for the extra buys. Gaining 1 more Counterfeit actually puts more pressure than you'd think, because the Counterfeit on its own is +1 buy, but if you Counterfeit your Counterfeit, you can end up getting 4 total buys, not 3 total buys from 2 Counterfeits. Because the first Counterfeit gives you +1 buy, and then plays the second one twice for 2 additional buys, so you end up with 4 buys at the end of that. And so having a lot of Counterfeits can often have the benefit of giving you a lot of in-game pressure, because you get tons of buys. For example, to buy extra coppers to hit fountain points. But the Destro gain seems quite fine too. I think with a good draw, Assemble Me can win this turn. Yeah, I'm not sure if they have it here. Let's see. So you can small castle your haunted castle. Why are they playing the... I guess it doesn't really matter what order they go in. No, you don't need to gain the copper. Okay, I don't think they're playing for the win. That's unfortunate. So let's see if they had this. They probably need to find their mounted bank. If they found their mounted bank, what they could have done was like trash your haunted castle with a small castle to gain the opulent castle. That's enough to give you a points... Oh, it's not enough to give you a points lead because your opponent actually just hit fountain. Never mind. I would still do it though. I don't know why they're keeping their haunted castle around. They had enough actions to trash it. I mean, the 7 coin castle is just one more point than haunted castle. I don't see any reason not to trash your haunted castle and gain it. I guess they're just saving it with the intention to like trash it later to get the 8 coin castle. All right, now we got a third pile that's really low. So Assemble Me likely could get enough coppers here. I think they're at like 8 or 9 coppers. So they'll hit fountain points pretty soon. They can trash castle with small castle to gain the grand castle. They could buy the king's castle outright. That empties castles. And then they could give a curse out with mounted bank and buy the last curse. Now, they haven't drawn everything. Never mind. That requires that they draw, which they didn't. But I still do think that Assemble Me is probably in the lead here. Their deck is just doing a whole lot more. I don't think ilikus has the ability to pile out here. Maybe with a real good boon off of Bard. Could they get like Earth Gift and gain Hostelry that way? Then buy Hostelry... No, I don't think there's a world where ilikus piles out this turn. Yeah, I think next time Assemble Me has a good draw, they'll probably just win. They're 11 points behind, but Grand Castle plus King's Castle should be enough to overcome that. Yeah, so here you go. Trash the Haunted Castle with the small castle. Gain the Grand Castle. That's 2 types. That can get you... Let me see. Yeah, they should have it, right? Trash Haunted Castle with small castle. You'll gain Grand Castle. That'll be 7 points. Then you react with Falconer to gain a curse. You trash the gold with the counterfeit. That gives you 6, 9, 10 coins. You buy the King's Castle and the other curse. The King's Castle's worth 1, 2, 3, 8 points. 8 plus 7 minus 2 from the curses would be a win. Yeah, they've got the win in hand. We'll see if they see it. No, they don't see it. You needed to gain the curse with the Falconer to lower the curse pile. This is entering riskier territory, I think, because if you're not piling out, you're leaving the curses incredibly low for your opponent to pile out with. And they don't have enough buys now to just buy everything out. They needed to gain a curse with Falconer. Yeah, it makes sense that they're thinking now, because they're now in a really awkward spot. I mean, they still got a good chance of winning, because their opponent is not drawing nearly as well as they are. But with a good draw, ilikus can win next turn. You know, like they get their mountebank and a counterfeit or something. They give out one curse, then they counterfeit the silver or something to hit 10, and they buy King's Castle and the other curse. And then that sounds like a win to me. I don't know the likelihood of that. You know, probably well below 50%, but at least realistic. So if I were a simple me, I would have thought a little bit harder to see if I could find the 3 pile, because in this case it did exist. Oh, they went for the gold trash anyway. So now they can see they can buy King's Castle and buy a curse. If that silver were a curse, they would have had the win already. Maybe, what are they undoing? You could gamble and try to hit your mountebank. And if you happen to gamble into your mountebank and give out one curse, then you could buy the King's Castle and another curse. As it happens, that wouldn't work because ilikus has a curse in hand and can just block it. Oh, this looks so dicey. This looks so dicey. So ilikus now just wins if they find counterfeit. Because they give out one curse with mountebank. Then they just have to buy, like... Oh, yeah, they could have afforded province and curse if they found their counterfeit, but they didn't. You gotta buy duchy here. You just absolutely have to buy duchy. You can't leave the curse pile at 1 and also give yourself a points deficit. They got to at least try to take the points lead here. Basically, their opponent finds any plus buy or gains, they win right now. Like if you don't buy duchy, and then it's 33-32, a simple me can gain 1 curse, be it 32-32, and all I have to do is like buy an estate to win. So if you're ilikus, you gotta buy duchy to at least make it a little bit harder for them to end the game. I think the duchy buy is just really clear. There's literally 1 card left in a 0 cost pile. You know your opponent can afford to buy the curse. Okay, they got the duchy. Alright, now simple me wins. You can bounty hunt those castles for extra coins, not that you need them. So bounty hunt the castles for coins, play the counterfeit. I don't think you want to trash copper. They might be at exactly 10 copper. At the very least, I wouldn't risk it. You just buy province curse. You could even play falconer to gain estate and then like buy duchy curse. They're going for the they're going for the hostelry pile out instead. What'd they do? They just lost. Why'd they do that? I'm so confused. Why? They had the forced win and they took the forced loss. I don't understand. Why? I'm not sure what they were thinking. Maybe they forgot that their opponent had taken the points lead by buying the duchy. I'm a little speechless. Yeah. You were ahead. You were so far ahead. You had enough to buy a province. Oy vey. That was snatching defeat from the jaws of victory right there. All right, game 4. Another mountebank game. This is painful. What do we got here? So, draw. Slay can draw, gives you horses. Diplomat can draw, gives you +2 cards. It also gives you +2 action if you happen to play it in a hand of 4 or fewer cards. Diplomat checks whether you have 5 or fewer cards after playing it, which will be true if you had 4 or fewer cards when you played it. So you can't really lead with the Diplomat. Like if you have a standard 5-card hand, Diplomat won't work. It'll just give you the +2 cards. But if you can manage to reduce your hand size to 4 or less, all of a sudden Diplomat's a viable source of action. What about plus action now? Well, King's Court can let you play huge numbers of actions. Diplomat, we just say, could potentially give action. Village Green, it's a village, it gives action. Academy also gives plus action. And the way Academy works is whenever you buy an action card, or whenever you gain an action card, that'll be an important distinction. You get +1 villager, which is like an action you can spin whenever. So one combination that's already jumping out at me is Academy plus horses. So for example, Slay is normally a very weak draw card because it's netting you +1 draw, but it's costing an action. And +1 draw, -1 action is not very strong. That's like the moat. But Slay is technically giving you the draw by gaining you 2 action cards, horses, which are like the one-shot +1 draw cards. So if you get Academy and then get Slay, every Slay you play is getting you 2 villagers. So it's now like a village and also draw. It's like a lost city. So you get the village effect from the Academy, and also you get the draw from the horses. So Slay becomes an incredibly strong card with Academy around. It also means Supplies, the treasure card, now becomes a village for similar reasons. You know, Supplies doesn't cost an action to play, but it gains you a horse, and every time you gain a horse, whether that horse goes back to the pile or not, you got a village draw for that. So every Supplies you play, once Academy is in play, gives you villages. So those will give you huge amounts of draw. That being said, there is no trashing in this kingdom anywhere. And there is, again, Mountebank, which is a very strong attack card. So I think a very important thing in this kingdom is just going to be play a lot of Mountebanks to fill your opponent's deck with junk. And so I think the things I want to do are Mountebank early for attacks, and then pretty soon I want to get Academy whenever I can and start filling my deck with like Slays, I think. And then hope that the Slays can overcome the junking attack of the Mountebanks. King's Court will also be very good with Slay. I mean, King's Courting Slay itself is not bad, but King's Courting horses is also really good because if you like the horse itself is a laboratory, and the downside is it's a laboratory that goes back the time you play it. But if you King's Court it, you can play it thrice before it goes back. And so I'd be happy to King's Court some Slays. Let's see what they open with. Ilikus takes Diplomat Stockpile. Assemble Me takes Stockpile. I think I like Stockpile better, but Diplomat Stockpile's not bad. Stockpile's a nice little treasure card. It's like a gold that goes straight away to your exile map. So the first time you buy it, it's like a one-shot gold. But the benefit is the next time you get Stockpile, you can take the first one off your exile map, and so you get the Stockpile you bought, and the Stockpile got exiled. And so the second Stockpile you buy is like a 2-shot gold. You get 2 golds in your deck that each go away after the first time you play them. And the third one you buy is like 3 one-shot golds because you take the original 2 back, and then you gain a new one. And so Stockpile is just almost always better than Silver because they're little golds that kind of snowball on you and help you hit 5 in big numbers much faster. They both buy Mountebank turn 3, which I like. I think that's probably the most important card to get. I like that Ilikus bought Academy. I think more than I like the Scheme Stockpile opening from Assemble Me. I think I understand the rationale for buying Scheme Stockpile, which is you want to take the stockpiles back off the map. I think I would take like Stockpile Slay with the intention to get Academy ASAP turn 5 to set up that Slay Academy combo. Ilikus gets another Mountebank. That seems fine to me. Ditto for Assembled Me. Ilikus takes another Diplomat. That seems alright. And Assembled Me gets a King's Court, which is a strong card. Now we're all caught up. Another combo that I think maybe Assembled Me is aiming towards is King's Court and Scheme. You know, the downside of King's Court in a deck like this is it's an amazing card, but it does rely that you line it up with other action cards. And so maybe there's some uncertainty there of, I draw a hand with like a King's Court and like 2 curses and 2 coppers from all the junk I got from Mountebank, and my King's Court goes to waste. So what you could do is you could play your King's Court on a Scheme, then you get extra draw from that, right? You play King's Court, you play Scheme, that costs 2 cards, but you get the +1 card effect 3 times, so you're getting draw out of that. And you get Scheme's effect 3 times, which is letting you top deck stuff. So King's Court on Scheme lets you top deck 3 cards, choose 2 of those to be King's Court and Scheme, and you do it next turn. And then you just have like draw and perpetuity, right? Eventually you get like 2 King's Courts and 3 Schemes, for example. Then you play King's Court on Scheme on Scheme on Scheme. You now have a 9-card hand, and you just top deck King's Courts and Schemes for the next turn, and so forth. And so King's Court and Scheme is just like a very reliable source of action and draw that you can set up. It's an expensive one, though. I think I prefer the Slay Academy thing because it seems much faster to get going. But King's Court is definitely very strong. Now here we saw a very strong use of King's Court. A simple me just got to King's Court their mounted bank and give out 6 junk cards, which, whew, that is a lot. What did the curse split end up being? Despite that, they ended up splitting the curses equally, 5 to 5. Assemble me wants to undo. Why is that? I'm very confused why they wanted to mule that. Wait. Oh, I see. That's not the order I would have thought they were doing it, but it works the other way. What you could do is like King's Court Mounted Bank, play it twice normally, then mule the third one, then play the other Mounted Bank normally. Which is, I guess, equivalent. Either way works. Surely Academy now. If I'm assembling me, I definitely want the Academy. I guess King's Court's also good by at 7. So there were 2 orders you could go. Here's the problem: is they had King's Court and 2 Mounted Banks in hand, and so if you ignore Mule for a second, the best they could do is King's Court 1 Mounted Bank, and the other one goes unplayed. So the question is, how do you get that second Mounted Bank to do something for you? Well, the answer is way the Mule is around, which is +1 action, +1 coin. And so you can play 1 Mounted Bank as the way of the Mule, and then that's action neutral, and you get 1 extra coin out of it. And so the order I was thinking was King's Court 1 Mounted Bank, and then you play it twice normally, and then the third time as a Mule, and then you have 1 more action left over to play the other Mounted Bank normally. What they did was just play the first Mounted Bank as a Mule, and then King's Court the other Mounted Bank to play it 3 times. Both of those end up being equivalent, because it results in 3 Mounted Bank plays and 1 Mule play. I was just a little confused because I was expecting the one, they did the other, and so for a second it looked like a misplay, and then I realized theirs works just as well. What did Assemble mean to buying that turn? They bought him the King's Court, that seems fine. I really like Academy though here. Also, stockpiles are not insignificant because they're the only source of plus buy. Falconer could also be good. Falconer is another way to gain cards. But I would be very happy to just gain lots and lots of slays. Diplomat will also be good once you have some slays, because the slays will bank up villagers, which then allow you to draw with Diplomat. And you don't have to care whether your hand size is small enough to activate Diplomat's effect. You can just be getting Diplomat for like the +2 card effect. And you can draw with like slays plus Diplomat. And I would love to just fill my deck with draw cards to hopefully get through this mountain of junk that they're both going to get. Coppers are only at 33. For context, the copper pile starts at 46. So they've got a whole lot of coppers in their deck. That does mean there's something to be said for this King's Court scheme thing, which is the top decking effect is going to be really valuable here. This could be King's Court, could be Falconer Slay. Does this sit on a 3 pile? I can see stockpiles piling out. I could see King's Court or Slay running out. Could see copper even running out with some big King's Court Mountain Bank plays. I don't know how likely that is, but it's definitely a possibility. I think as a simple me, you probably buy another stockpile here just to get your plus buy back, and buy like King's Court or Falconer, or you could buy. Oh, no, actually, buy King's Court and Falconer. I think I like that better. Stop relying on stockpiles plus buy because it's just so fleeting. Each stockpile leaves, and then gain your cards via King's Court and Falconers to gain stuff. I think that's my new best idea. You know, you play King's Court and Falconer, you can get like 3 Slays or 3 Diplomats or 3 Schemes, which gets you a lot of draw cards real fast and also threatens piles. You could also King's Court Falconer to gain stockpiles to buy stuff. So like if you wanted to get multiple King's Courts in a turn or multiple provinces or colonies, you could King's Court your Falconer to get the stockpiles straight into hand for plus buy. And that circumvents the normal restrict to Falconer of only being able to gain 4 cost cards or cheaper. Yeah, this looks to be a good lead for a simple me. They've got this King's Court thing up and running. I was thinking with the early Academy, ilikus was aiming towards the big Slay stuff, but then they haven't really pursued that. Province already? I don't know about that. I mean, even if colonies weren't around, I would think there's a lot of real high value cards here that are kind of decisive, like King's Court and stuff. I don't want to be single provincing, especially with colony around. There's no risk that you're going to empty like the provinces before your opponent builds up to colonies. I still like the Falconer idea. You could also consider buying back a stockpile. Why are they undoing that? Oh, that was smart. So, I guess they had some extra unresolved King's Court plays, and so instead of playing King's Court normally, they played it as Way of the Mule to get like an extra coin out of it. I don't like them taking colony either. The piles aren't that low that you're about to lose next turn. Build a bit. Get all the King's Courts. Get the Falconers. Especially because now all their stockpiles are exiled. Where are your gains coming from? You don't have Falconer. You don't have the stockpiles. He's got like a sea of copper. For 5, Falconer. I think seems like a clear enough buy to me. I think it's kind of a little too late for ilikus though. This King's Court scheme thing is just like super reliable. It's not gonna ever dud. You just retop deck it every single turn. And so a simple me is playing with like a 9-card hand to ilikus's 5-card hand every turn. Surely you have to add something to your deck that gives you the ability to gain cards. Buy another stockpile, I guess. Again, you could buy Falconer. I think I would buy Falconer here because you could gain the stockpile mid-turn and then get your stockpiles off the mat then. I'm not sure why they're greening when they have no payload in their deck though. Okay, I like the stockpile buy. It kind of makes sense to buy 2 of them, I guess. Now, ilikus doesn't have any on their mat, but like let's say they drew some stockpiles here. By buying the last stockpile, they deny ilikus the ability to play some stockpiles this turn, buy stockpile, get those stockpiles back off the map. And so it would be more significant if Ilikus already had the stockpiles all on the map and you could just stick them there permanently. But here it's still not bad, right? Like those are 2 stockpiles that are never coming back off Ilikus's map. Ilikus is now about to get King's Court scheme set up finally. I think it's a little late though. I still like a falconer, honestly. They take duchy. I don't like duchy. I think I get the King's Court a horse, which is nice. What do you buy now? Colony King's Court? Colony Falconer? Maybe Falconer's better. I'm not sure where their plus buys coming from anymore once they get those stockpiles on the map. Not sure if that's all of Ilikus's stockpiles, but at the very least it's close to all of them. So if they leave the stockpiles there and don't get any additional gains, well, they're buying 1 card per turn from here on out. Yeah, I think I'd take like Falconer Slay maybe. Ooh, lowering schemes. I guess they're just going to try to go for the scheme pile out. But where's their plus buy coming from for that? How are they going to empty those? Do they have more stockpiles? No, that's all of Ilikus's stockpiles on the mat already. So they have no plus buy, they have no gainers. If they're trying to empty schemes, they're going to do that 1 at a time. So you have to spend your next 3 turns consecutively just buying 1 scheme a turn. That seems super slow. Your opponent can outscore you by then. I don't like the double scheme buy at all. Can Assembly win here? They have enough buys to do like double colony, triple scheme. I'm not sure they have enough money for it. Oh, then maybe they do now. Let's see. King's Court Mountebank, that's 6. Plus 11 is 17. Plus 15 is, what, like 32? Yeah, they could... I think that's enough to do... Yeah, they could do double colony, triple scheme and win. Well, you know, given last time, maybe they just buy the schemes in their turn. They actually have enough money to do like double colony, triple King's Court, and take the expensive pile. Alrighty. Is that 3-1 now? Or is that 2-2? Ooh, that's 2-2. Ah, yes. Assemble Me confirms that it is in fact 2-2. Game number 5. Let's see what we've got. So, draw. Two sources of draw that I'm seeing off the bat. Livery, on its own is not draw, but it can get you a large number of the forces in a good kingdom. You build a big kingdom that's gaining like 4 more, 4 cost cards per turn. You can be shoving huge number of the forces in your deck. You get like 2 liveries in play, buy 4 things, you get like 8 horses. Livery can be great draw in the right kingdom. We also have Shepherd. Shepherd allows you to discard victory cards for draw. If you use Shepherd to discard a single estate, you're not really net drawing. You had a Shepherd in hand and an estate in hand. You play the Shepherd, discard the estate, you're down to 3 cards, and then you draw 2 more, you're back to 5. But if you can line up your Shepherd with like 2 or more estates, all of a sudden it's net drawing you cards. That is a little bit easier because when Shepherd's around, you also start with a Pastor in place of one of your 6 or one of your 7 starting coppers. And the Pastor is basically just like a copper that's also a victory card, so you can discard that. So we got some draw. Do we have action? The only source of action I see is you can sacrifice 1 action card to get more actions. And that doesn't seem like a very likable source of plus action to me. Is there plus buy? What about gains? There's no plus buy. You can kind of gain stuff with like Camel Train by putting stuff in your exile mat and then unexiling it later. You could like forward stuff and other stuff. In general though, this kingdom's looking pretty weak. There's spotty draw. There's spotty action, spotty buys. There's good trashing in the form of Bounty Hunter. You can, Bounty Hunter your stuff onto the Bounty Hunter mat, or you can forge your coppers away, or you can miser your coppers away. All of those are good ways to get rid of your coppers and estates and stuff. You might even consider not getting rid of your estates with the Shepherds around, just like keep them there for draw. But I think this is going to be a hard engine to build. Livery is a really good draw card in an already good engine, because it works well if you're gaining lots of high-cost cards. But Livery, I think, is going to be weak here, because the rest of the engine is too weak to make it very viable. You don't have a way to like gain or buy lots of high-cost cards to trigger its effect. So I think you're playing pretty money-ish here. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but it probably involves some Shepherds. Let's see what they open with. They go with Assemble Me takes Fisherman, Bounty Hunter. That seems solid to me. Ilikus takes Sacrifice, Camel Train. Yeah, that seems alright too. Like I said, nothing's amazing here. Assemble Me is going into liveries. That's interesting. So they're going to try to build a big engine? I don't think I believe in that. So if you're doing that, what would it look like? So you could gain some horses with livery, sacrifice the horses for plus action, then forge some other horses into like golds, and that triggers the livery effect to gain more horses. I'm not really seeing it. I'm not seeing how that comes together. I think you just pick one of the mini copper trashers, Bounty Hunter, Miser, Sacrificer, Forge, trash some coppers. Probably don't even bother trashing the estates, honestly. Just get like a Shepherd or 2 to draw with them, and then play big money, I think. Border Guard is a nice card for reliability. It's basically a cantrip. It's +1 action, and then the text is basically like a fancy way to say +1 card. But you get to look at the top 2 cards and choose which of the 2 top cards you draw. And so it just adds a little bit of reliability because you get to pick the better of the 2 cards. And so I'd never be unhappy taking a Border Guard on 2 coins. Sometimes it's even better than a silver. In a kingdom like this, where you're playing money, I'd probably take the silver over it at 3. But definitely a good card in general. What cards do you want a lot of? I guess, I mean, you could be exiling ventures or exiling golds with your camel train and then gain those, and that's how you get treasure into your deck. It looks like ilikus maybe is committing to not play with Shepherd if they're exiling the green cards. That's not necessarily a bad idea. For 6, Forge. Interesting. I don't like the Forge very much. They've already got a sacrifice for trashing, they've already got a bounty hunter for trashing, and they don't really have a good way to draw a lot of cards. Forge is good when you've got a deck that's really strong, otherwise there's a lot of draw, so you can draw a bunch of stuff in one hand, but are otherwise having trouble trashing it all, and so you used to get off like 1 or 2 big Forge trashes. That doesn't seem to describe this kingdom very well. I think you've already got fine trashers, but you don't have the ability to set up a good Forge turn. I think I would skip the Forge and honestly just like take a gold or something, or a venture. But yeah, I think nothing about this kingdom screams build really big to me. Everything about it says just play some very basic money deck. For example, both Shepherd and Bounty Hunter around make it much more acceptable to green early than otherwise. Having more green cards in your deck for Shepherd can help you draw rather than hurt your draw, and Bounty Hunter can set them aside anyway if you get too many. You can just exile all your provinces and duchies to get them back out of the way. And so this is a kingdom where, without plus buy, without a big engine to be built, I just take some green cards and exile them over time, draw with Shepherd, and have like a few golds in deck, and that's it. I would think you take the gold here. They take the sacrifice. Interesting. I mean, you can't play the sacrifice and the camel train. Maybe they're planning to sacrifice the camel train? They do. Okay, that's all right. Gain 2 golds, I like that. Why didn't they exile a horse? Or not exile a horse. Why didn't they exile a copper? They could have gotten a free copper out of their deck there with their bounty hunter, and they just chose not to. I don't understand that one. Maybe they miscounted or something. I don't know why they want coppers in their deck they don't have to have. So what does ilikus do? Bounty Hunter Province. Probably just don't play either action and just buy Province. I don't think you want to sacrifice the Shepherd. They're drawing on. Okay. Is it worth their while? They could forge the border guard and the gold into a province. But if they're just buying the gold back, then all they've done is lose a border guard. They could play the Shepherd as way of the horse to send the Shepherd back for a little extra draw. Hope they find at least one more coin. I don't know what they're trying to do here. They played the border guard. I was thinking maybe the plan was draw with Shepherd, buy province, forge border guard into gold in the second province. That could have been a good play. Now they've drawn with border guard, so that's not an option. I feel like they just wasted that sacrifice for nothing. As a simile, I would seriously consider. Oh well, I was gonna say I'd seriously consider bounty hunting the pastor, because that's +3 coins. But they just went ahead and sent it to the discard pile. Okay, so Assimilating does have to be careful here, because they are in the points lead, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can safely take the last province. Ilikus can still win if they can find their forge and do like province duchy. They can take the tie if they can even do province estate. They don't. Yeah, they have the tie here. I think I'd just take the tie rather than risk it. You play forge to turn fisherman gold into province, then you buy estate. Estate is worth 2 points because they have a pastor around. They didn't trash that, did they? Yeah, they've exiled it. So that would give you 8 points, which would tie up the game. And they're player 2, so that'd be a true tie. Now, if they wanted to get real greedy, they could draw on, like, play their fisherman as like a horse or something, and hope to find something better that could get them a duchy, maybe. But oh, they did it. Well, they got greedy and it paid off. Forge fisherman gold into province, buy duchy. They took quite the risk there, but it worked. Alrighty, is that 3-2 for Ilikus, I believe? Going into the final game, and Ilikus gets to start. None more? Maybe they need more 1 minute break? I don't think they're saying, please, no more 1 minute breaks. Alrighty, looks like we're about to start the final game. What do we have this time? Draw, lackeys, or cavalry, or archive. Action. You can get villagers temporarily by buying lackeys. You can also get action from hostelry, which is like a village. And squire can potentially be played as a village. Trashing. Chapel can trash. Chapel's really good trash, so that's all you really need. And plus buy or gains. Spices is plus buy. Squires can be played as plus buy. All you have to choose between playing it is plus buy and the village effect. Storm also is plus buy. And cavalry has a nice little, it's buy neutral. Whenever you buy it, you get plus 1 buy back. So what are you doing here? You got 2 little events that are like bonus plus buy. For 3, you can draw 2 cards, or for 2, you can gain a horse, which is like drawing 1 card. You're definitely opening chapel and something. Could be chapel cavalry if on 3-4. Could be fisherman chapel on any opening would work. Looks like neither of them has a 5-2. Could try maybe like Chapel Expedition and hope to draw your Chapel turn 2 and get an early trash in. Ilikus goes for Chapel Cardinal. Cardinal's like an okay card. It's terminal silver. It's got an attack that exiles stuff. I don't think that's super significant here. I mean, like if you exile their cards, they just buy them back later. A lot of the cards you have cost 2, like Lackeys or Chapel or Fisherman for many portions of the game will cost 2. I can see playing with some Cardinals, but I don't think it's like the key card. So why did Assemble Me not play their Fisherman? Let me figure that out. They bought Fisherman and Chapel. Turn 3, they bought a Fisherman. Turn 4, they didn't draw with a Fisherman. I don't understand why they would do that. Maybe there's something missing just from looking at the log, but it seems like they just passed up on trashing 4 cards to only trash 3 cards instead. That confuses me a bit. That was a nice play from Ilikus. You buy the Cavalry, you get to return to your action phase, and then they draw the Chapel and they get to trash. Alright, now Ilikus should watch out for being over-trashed here. If they trash all these coppers, I think they might not have enough payload left to do a whole lot. Maybe you just trash like 2 coppers now and buy like a Squire or something with the intention to add some silvers back into your deck. That could work. They do have a Cardinal coming in. Well, they should probably take the copper here and then save the Cardinal for next turn. Oh, maybe they're just going to not trash any cards. Oh, Cardinal. Reveals an estate and a copper and fails to do anything. I like Spices. Spices is a good buy. It gives you plus buy. It's a silver on its own, and it gives you extra coffers to work with. Not sure what I do as Ilikus in this situation. Really just want to play Chapel. Could consider playing Cardinal for the attack. I don't think that's that important. Exiled Cavalry, that's not all too significant. Buy another Spices, buy an Archive. Hostelry is good. I like that. They need the action. Alright, Assemble Me is quite low on payload. I think I would just trash the estates and add a Squire. And you can buy the silver directly, but I think I would just want to take the Squire and gain some silvers off of it. It also has the added benefit of if your opponent's playing Cardinal every turn, Squires is immune to the Cardinal attack, but silver is not. And I'd be really sad if my opponent hit like my only payload card this turn. As it turns out they didn't, but still more risky. Alright, about time to trash those coppers. Just trash them all. Alright, they do trash them all. That's good. They can afford to add maybe like spin 2 coffers by Fisherman Spices. They're going to go for what? Fisherman Hostelry? Fisherman Cardinal? Fisherman Cardinal. That's okay. Then again, actually, they don't have enough actions to support that, do they? They can't play all the relevant cards, I don't think. Maybe Fisherman Hostelry was better. Well, you definitely don't take the Cardinal here because you can't play it. That was a mistake. I don't think they need to trash all those coppers. Now they're over trashed. You're drawing your whole deck anyway. It's not quite time to trash those last 2 coppers. They could have played the Cavalry, drawn with Fisherman. That top deck's a horse. and then they could have played the cardinal to get an attack in. I don't have a good sense of who's in the lead here. Both the decks seem alright. Lackeys is a good card, and it's draw. In the short term, it's action. You can trash it later with Chapel if you really need to. Super cheap. It's a card that kind of makes me want extra plus buy, because I'd love to be getting some, it's like extra lackeys on my $2 buys. We've only seen one of them bought here. But I could see kind of spamming spices and lackeys a lot for the plus buy and for the draw. Assemble Me still needs payload. This could be like Fisherman Spices. Could be Fisherman Cardinal. I think that's fine. Maybe start getting some attacks of your own in. One thing we're thinking about is both of them have a good number of Fishermen. I'd be trying to figure out how I could get my Cardinal to hit the Fisherman. Because if on my turn I don't have anything in my discard, those Fishermen are going to be costing 2, which means they don't get hit by the Cardinal attack, which only affects cards from 3 to 6. One thing you could do, and it looks like ilikus might have done this deliberately here, I hope this was planned, you play your Cavalry first, that puts horses into your discard, and then you play your Cardinal, and then now their Fishermen cost 5 and can be hit by the Cardinal. As it turns out, they hit the Cardinal and not the Fisherman, but I like the idea of playing Cavalry before Cardinal, so that the Fishermen become a target. So as Assemble Me, you could buy back Cardinal and take your Cardinal back off the mat, but then you need one more action, I think. So Cardinal Hostelry here seems good. Looks like they agree. Unfortunately, there's a good chance their hostelry gets exiled here by the Cardinal. This was I think a poor play order by ilikus. So they play the hostelry first and then the cavalry, which means the horses go to the discard. If they play the cavalry first and then the hostelry, can they do that and still get the Cardinal? Let me think. So the argument for playing the cavalry and then the hostelry is you top deck one of the horses. The question is, can you play the Cardinals that way? I have to go back and think about that more. It might be that they couldn't have afforded to do it the way I was thinking of and still get the Cardinals to hit the Fisherman. So I'm going to rescind my claim that was definitely poor play. I might have been mistaken there. What do you buy here? Hostelry for sure. You need the action. Could be like Lackey's Cardinal or Lackey's Hostelry. Archive. I mean, if you're planning on buying the Archive, I'd still shell out the one extra coffer to get like a Lackey's or even a Squire. Those cards are not bad. Lots of stuff getting exiled and re-unexiled. Assemble Me has a Fisherman exiled. ilikus has a Cardinal and an Archive exiled. That attack will start getting painful if these piles start to run out. Like if Fishermen run out and your Fishermen get exiled, well, there's no way to get them back. And so then all of a sudden the Cardinal attack is not like a temporarily, like this card's in timeout. It all of a sudden is like this card's been trashed forever. And then that attack can start to look a little bit painful. Lackeys. Ride. I don't like Ride. I mean, Ride's alright, but I think Lackeys or even Squire is probably better long term. Lackeys is just, in general, I think a very good card. You know, it falls off in the long term once those villagers run out, but the short-term boost it gives you, right? Like the first few times you play lackeys, it's like a $2 laboratory because you're getting the 2 draw, and then the villagers you got kind of cover the action cost. And I think, you know, just in general, short-term benefit outweighs long-term harm. And so I would take the jumpstart of lackeys, especially when there's a good way to trash it again. You know, like you could chapel them all away later if they somehow got in the way. /undi. That's not going to work if you don't spell it right. There we go. If you type / and then type undo, that's another way to undo. And the benefit of doing that instead of pressing the undo button is you can choose how many steps you want to undo at a time. So like if I wanted to go back 5 steps, I could type /undo into the chat and then click the spot in the log that's like 5 steps back and undo back to that position. And so I think that's what Assembly was trying to do there, was undo like multiple steps at once. The other thing you can type is /undo and then a space and the number of steps you want to do. And that's another way to undo multiple steps at a time. Ilikus could technically get these cardinal plays in if they wanted to. They could buy like lackeys, then cavalry. Then they could return to their buy phase or return to their action phase with villagers now to spend and play the last cardinal. Not sure that's worth it, but like it is a thing that you could think about doing. Two more cardinals. They really like these cardinals. I don't think the cardinals were that good. I feel like a deck that just plays with, I don't know, hostelry, cavalry, squires, and fills your deck with like silvers and horses and stuff is going to be fine against that, because most of the cardinals are going to hit like silvers and horses, and then you can just gain more horses off of cavalry, gain more silvers off of squire, and get them back off the mat. I don't think the exile attack is really that strong. You know, it's a temporary delay. You lose the card for a minute and you eventually get it back. I don't think it's a game-changing attack in most cases. How low are piles? Cardinals might run out. Hostelry might run out. Fisherman maybe could run out. This could end in a 3 pile. Looks like Ilikus needs more villages. Could be double hostelry. Could be... Wow, they want all the cardinals. I don't know about that. You can't even play all the cardinals. Well, it was helpful of Assembly to exile 2 of Ilikus's unnecessary cardinals. That's probably better for Ilikus's deck. Now what do you buy? I'm not sure. Oh, they're lowering piles a lot. I don't think there's any imminent pile up in like the next turn or so. This could be like spices. No turn without undo. Sorry. Oh, I think they're saying they're undoing every turn. That sounded like blackmail or something. Like, unless you grant me the undo, I will not take my turn. Such undos. I maybe just wanted to buy a fisherman first. Fisherman, spices, lackeys. Fisherman double hostelry. Fisherman province. I'm not sure what their plan is here. They still have a bunch of stuff exiled. These two are both going heavy for the Cardinals. One neat little thing is, I'm tired. If you buy duchies, Cardinal can't exile duchies. And so it can actually be kind of friendly if you put some duchies in your deck and then the duchies get sent to the mat. And you're happy to have the duchies out of the way. I'm not saying it's a good idea necessarily to buy duchies as a counter to Cardinal. But if you're buying duchies anyway, that would be a nice thing to note, is Cardinal can exile duchies, much to your opponent's benefit. Are we getting close to a Fisherman pilot? I don't think any of them have the buys or the money to do that. Know that there's no way, there's no good way, not in this kingdom at least, to get a bunch of Fishermen for 2. Because the first Fisherman will cost 2, and that'll go to your discard, and the rest of the Fishermen are going to cost like 5 each. So that stack of 4 Fishermen costs you 17, not 8. Now there is some context, like if you had Tracker or something around, or like Traveling Fear, that lets you top deck cards that you bought, you could like buy the first Fisherman for 2, top deck it, buy the next Fisherman for 2, top deck it, and so forth. And so everyone costs 2 because your discard pile is empty. I don't see anything like that here. So there's not a particularly good way. Oh, well, what about Cavalry maybe? You like buy 2 Fishermen, buy a Cavalry. That could get the Fisherman back out of your discard. They still don't have enough buys for it, but maybe there's some world where you pile out the Fisherman. Does that even save you money? So you buy 2 Fishermen for 2, buy Cavalry, buy 2 more fish. No, it doesn't really work. You're not saving money because Cavalry just costs enough. Cavalry could get the Fisherman to cost 2 again because you could draw the Fisherman out of your discard pile. But I think the cost of buying the Cavalry itself would end up costing net more. I like the Province buy. Piles are low enough that I think that they did kind of need to put some points on the board. Could have just been Duchy, of course. We did just say, Duchy's not bad with the Cardinals around. But I definitely like taking some points there, so the opponent can't pile out. It is sad to be that lackeys are still at 9. Lackeys just seems like you got surplus buys, you got cards that are valuable, and I mean they like this million cardinal thing, and lackeys are also immune to cardinal, which is I guess another added benefit. I would have bought some more lackeys in this kingdom. I think I would let the cardinal go. Oh, they get rid of the spices. Okay, I value the plus buy. Plus buy puts more pressure on the opponent. Wonder what ilikus is contemplating right now. I don't know what their last card is. They're not playing their cardinal? Why are they not playing their last cardinal? I'm confused. I don't understand why they passed up on a free cardinal attack. I have no idea what they were thinking there. Okay. Alright, well now it's tied up. I still we kind of need to get some more payload back on their deck. They could buy a spices and take 2 spices back off. That does kind of lower piles a bit. So you might also want to take a duchy with that. They're just going to buy the spices. Okay, can ilikus pile out now? They need to hit 12. Oh, Asylum's going back. They bought a cavalry to continue their turn. I like that. Now you buy province, duchy, some amount of points. You haven't taken the points here. Could be duchy lackeys. This is like a particularly good time, I think, to buy lackeys, right? Like the game's not going too much longer. You've only got a few turns left. And so imagine you play the lackeys twice, right? It's basically like a laboratory immune to cardinal the first 2 times you play it. And yeah, down the road 3-4 turns later, the villagers finally run out. But there's probably not going to be a 3 or 4 turns later here. So I'd certainly be spending extra buys on lackeys here, I think. It's just like a nice little laboratory. Looks like we got some people here who are in the Quarantine Cup. How'd that go? Who won? If any of y'all were following finals, I'm kind of curious. Ah, well, congratulations to Freaky for winning the Quarantine Cup. Alrighty, so ilikus has 16 to spend and 3 buys. They don't have a win. I mean, they could take 2 spices and a province for the loss. They'd be tied in points. They would have 12 points apiece. But then, because ilikus is player 1, if the game ends in a tied points on player 1's turn, player 2 actually wins the game. Because you ended up with the same amount of points, but player 1 took one more turn to get there. It's only a true tie. Like, the game itself is only tied if you have tied points at the end of player 2's turn after you have equal points and equal turns. So ilikus did not have the win there. What about Assemble Me? They still don't have the win. I would think you take this province. Leaving 2 provinces off is just, I think, generally a good number of provinces to leave. And if your opponent can take double province, I think they've kind of won anyway. You can't really play around double province here, I don't think, but it's like taking duchy. Because if they take double province, then you have to take province and like quadruple duchy. And that just doesn't seem doable. Yeah, like province lackeys. I think that was probably the optimal buy there. So now, can ilikus double? It looks like they don't quite have it. I like saving the coffers, I think, because you can buy the duchy next turn anyway. And province duchy doesn't put the points like out of reach for ilikus or something. If they double province, they would still win. Oh, I guess province duchy does avoid that. That's a fair point. All right, that's the game, I believe. That is 4-2 in ilikus's favor. I'll have this up on YouTube in probably a few hours. See y'all around.